Well, hello my fellow car modelers. How you doing today? On today's video, we are going to cover on how to cut out the trunk lid of a model car body. Actually, two different types of model car bodies. I'm going to cover this in a two-part video, and the first video is going to cover one type of body, and then we'll cover the other type of body. So for those of you who've been kind of wondering how or what is the best way to get a molded on trunk lid, or even doors, but I'm just mainly going to be covering on the trunk, how to get it off so that you can have a nice displayed model with an exposed trunk and all the neat detail you can do in there depending on the type of model you're doing. This is how I have for many years, and how a lot of builders I've known who've opened up deck lids on any type of body panel on a styrene plastic model body. This is pretty much how it's done. It's the best way that keeps your gaps nice and close together. If you use like a razor saw or something, you're going to have too much gap there, and it's not going to look realistic when you get your model all done. It'll look like a scaled, gap about 2 inches on a real car. Now, this is actually something I haven't done in quite a few years. I used to open up the trunks on a lot of my models years past. I kind of stopped doing it. It was something I really didn't feel was necessary in a lot of the builds I've done in the past few years. And as far as any type of hingings, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Understructure detail. I'm not going to get into that on this video because there's different ways you can go depending on the model that you're building. I'm mainly going to cover what it takes to get that piece of plastic apart from the body and still look real and good and fit well. Hopefully I won't screw it up, on account of, like what I said, I haven't done it in a while, though. We'll see. So we are going to use two examples of the most common styrene we encounter when we want to cut out a panel. This is the 80s vintage monogram plastic. It was hard and much stiffer than a lot of the styrene we run into like today's models we've been seeing. This is an 80s Monte Carlo NASCAR body, and we're going to cut out the deck lid on this one. And then we have what we more commonly see today is the softer, more pliable plastic like used on this Roadrunner from AMT. Now, most of the time we would find that on this harder plastic, it tends to take a little longer to cut out, and if it's your first time doing it, I would highly suggest doing it on the softer styrene that we find in the more modern kits today and many of the AMT kits from even the past. So we're going to start with this AMT body. So I'm going to show you how to do this using two different types of tools. First one is the most common tool I know you all have, is the Exacto knife with the number 11 blade. The other one that I highly recommend that many of you probably don't have is the Tamiya Plastic Scriber 2. Now, I covered this tool on my episode 9 prepping the roll cage in the Nissan Skyline, and I used it for what it's really not purposed for, in taking off all of the parting lines on the roll cage. Today we're going to use this tool for what it was intended for. So if you can't find these at any of your local hobby shops, there's plenty of them online. Tamiya still sells this, and I'm going to put a link below on where you can find it. But first we're going to start with what I know you all have, is the Exacto knife. So the best way to go about this is to flip it around. You want to scribe in the direction of the back of the knife. Okay? We're not really slicing. We are removing material from inside this panel line. And you want to do it lightly. You don't want to put a lot of pressure. You want to start where you can start a straight line. We'll get to the curved areas later, but you want to just pull it down. Once you start going, your blade will follow the groove that you had started, and if you can see, it's pulling out material. It takes some patience, and you can see it all curling up on the blade. This takes some patience. It's not a quick job, but you just keep working. Do one panel line at a time. Wait till you get all the way through it. and sometimes you'll mess up and go over the body, and you're going to have some scratches. You're going to have to do some filling and prepping, but it happens. But once you kind of go off your line and hit onto the body, and I don't know if you can see in the camera that I did do it, there's a slight off track here. What you're going to find is now every time you go down that, it's going to want to follow the new line. So you got to get in there real slowly and kind of recut your path. It's almost like a railroad track switch, and we got to divert the train going down the proper path again. So just keep on doing that. Okay, so I've been going down this one panel line for a little bit, and now I'll show you in the back. You start to see you're coming through. Once you get to about that right there, it's not quite all the way through, but it's very, very thin, and you can see your whole scribe line. Move to another panel. I'm going to start at the top ridge here, and this is kind of a little more tricky because it curves. Just again, don't put a lot of pressure. Just let the knife follow, especially in your first stroke. Let the knife follow the panel line. Once it gets going, you can start getting a little bit faster, but again, always watch for going over like I did a second there, so I gotta redivert the path. And again, these curved areas on the corners, we don't want to do that. We'll hit that last. So just keep working that. Another thing that is a really good thing to do is, especially if you've kind of jumped your groove and went onto a panel, it's good to once in a while change your direction. So just go a couple one way and a couple other. It just kind of helps you stay into the groove. And here is a good example of why I usually like to switch directions every once in a while. Right now, I started going down and I got kind of stuck on like a little piece that got jammed in there, and it wanted to divert me off onto a panel. So if you flip it around when you get a little stuck spot right there and go in the other direction, it'll help you get it out. Sometimes you got to go in two different directions just to get your speed bump out of there. There's the culprit, and it's gone. So we're going to continue to scribe. Like I said, this takes some time. I've cut a lot out. I'm not going to have you sit here and watch me scribe the whole time. It is a time-consuming job, but take your time with it. Don't get into a rush. Stay light with your pressure on the blade into the styrene, and just lightly keep on following the groove. And as you get deeper, it gets a little easier to stay on track. But just stay with one panel at a time until you start seeing it poke through. I don't know if you can see this, but it's starting to show through. And sometimes if you hold this up, if you hold the body up to the light and shine it from the other side, you can see how thin the plastic's getting. And it'll give you an idea of how far you need to go. Like I said, you just want to start coming through. You don't want to go all the way. And I'll show you why here in a sec. Alright, so I've taken this as far as I want. You can see it's coming through. It's kind of like a bump here. Very, very thin. We got that side done, that side done. Now for this side, we're going to go ahead and use the Tamiya Plastic Scriber 2. So, you want to lock this thing down. Now what I like about this tool is you kind of have to hold it in a different direction than you would with your Exacto blade, which really helps you with keeping a very light pressure on the work area. So this you have to lay down like that. So we'll show you from this angle. It's a little tough for me because I have to go left-handed. And what this does is it kind of keeps you from putting too much pressure on the panel line, and it follows a lot easier, and you just ride it right down. You see how it's bringing up material? Because this is what this tool is designed for. It's for getting light panel lines more scribed in. It's really popular with the airplane modelers. What I have found for us model builders who like to open up body panels You can take it farther than the airplane guys go and go all the way through. So again, it just works really, it follows the line better. I have found that I have a less chance of going over the body panel. And I'm doing this left-handed. I'm right-handed, and because I wanted to position it correctly for the camera, I'm doing this left-handed, and it's working out way better for me than the Exacto blade. What's really nice about this tool, it takes a thinner line out, so you will find that using this, it won't take out as much material as the Exacto blade in the panel, so you end up having a closer gap, a much tighter gap. So this is just the better tool to have for cutting panel lines to open up a door or a trunk lid. Another nice thing about this tool is you actually can do the panel scribing a lot faster. It takes out a lot more material, and it's a lot more consistent, and it does a cleaner job. You can literally see, let's see if you can see, you can see the difference between scribing out with an Exacto blade and scribing out with the Tamiya Scriber tool. And we have gotten pretty much all the way through on this panel line. And now I just got to cut these out, and then we'll work on these corners. I'll show you what to do about the corners. And to tell you how much more superior this tool is, I went ahead and finished off the first two panel lines that I cut with this. So now that we've gotten this far, we're going to work on the corners. The Exacto knife is going to be a little better for you in these areas because it's like you're holding a pencil and you can draw it. So I'll get in there with the Exacto knife and kind of really carefully get around the corners. And the trunk lids that have more of a rounded corner like this on this Roadrunner, they're a little bit more difficult and tricky. So that's when I get in there with the Exacto knife. I'm going to get in there and just really carefully, like I'm drawing it. So now we're going to get underneath, and you can see your lines. I'll just take my Exacto knife, and again, it's really good to have a totally fresh blade when you're doing this. I'll get in there and I'll just kind of cut the bottom side, follow the line, and it's okay to punch through a bit. You want to get that kind of film of styrene that you've created cut. You can kind of break it apart like that. What's nice about this plastic that is real pliable is you can get in there and, alright, so like I said about these corners, I've cut through enough, they'll naturally kind of break right at the line. And I'll just swing it around, swing it up and down, and there, we've got our deck lid out. Now, you've got some slivers of styrene that's broke off from the bottom. That can all be cleaned up with a little bit of trimming and sanding. Just cut that excess away. And you can follow along like that with your Exacto blade. Cut away all the excess. Get all that trimmed away. Give yourself a nice edge. And take your sandpaper and just start working it and shaping it. It's also not a bad idea to take a sandy stick, probably a light grit, so you can keep it flat, and you get yourself a nice flat straight line. Gets a little more trickier on these curved areas. That's where I just use my sanding pads and get that. You do the same with your deck lid. Just trim off the excess that's left from the cut that's underneath, and then you can go ahead and take your sanding file, make these nice flat edges. It's looking good. And then go around your back section, and there you go. Kind of quick, but you can really get a little more involved in your sanding and prep, make it really nice. But you can see right there, we got ourselves a separate deck lid. And that's how you take off a body panel. So there you have it for part 1. We'll get part 2 out pretty quick, and I think at the end of part 2 I'm going to feature a couple of viewer models, because I want to start doing that. I'm starting to get some guys sending me pictures of their models, so keep on sending those models. I want to see what you're doing, and I'm going to put your models on our videos. So this is me, Lucas C. Keep on building those models, having fun with the hobby, and we'll see you in the next video. And please, I don't know where I'm going to put it yet, but press those like buttons and subscribe. And I'm getting more and more subscribers every day, and it's great to see you guys watching this. It's going to keep me going, and I'm having a lot of fun with this. So got a lot more ideas, and I want to hear your ideas because I'm listening. I want to do what you want to see. So get back on that model project. I'm going to get back on mine and keep on having fun. We'll see you in the next video. I should be in the next video. I think I'm going to be in the next video. I don't know who would be in the next video if I'm not in the next video. Actually, we'll see you in the next video. So let's get showing you that. So come on over to the workbench and I'll show you how to. So.
Excuse me, sir. Would you like your coffee warm or cold this evening?
Well, actually, I would like it warm, because the last time you brought it to me, it was quite cold, and it made a mockery of my video.
You told me that's how you like it, like how you like your women.
Oh, that's messed up.